I want you to pause for a breath and really look at your legs right now. Because if they feel heavier when you first stand up, you may be losing the quiet strength that keeps you steady. And the part no one mentions is that this usually begins long before pain shouts for attention. I have spent many years at the bedside with older Americans, and I can tell you there is a gentler and faster way to nudge strength back than most people are ever offered, beginning with one simple morning choice that improves circulation and calms inflammation so your muscles can fire the way they were meant to. This is not a sales pitch, and it is not wishful thinking. It is the practical side of what we see when the right nutrients meet tired muscle fibers and sluggish blood flow, changes that have been documented by respected medical centers and by clinicians like me who measure progress in steps taken and stairs climbed. I remember a grandmother in her late 70s who gripped the banister with both hands and stopped twice on the way to her mailbox. She felt embarrassed more than afraid, which is what happens to so many of us. We tried a small protocol that favored foods known to support blood flow and recovery, and within a short stretch of days, her walk felt lighter and her confidence returned. Individual stories are not proof, but they are a signal, and the science behind them is worth your attention. Research from major universities has linked dietary nitrates from common vegetables to healthier nitric oxide levels that open vessels and deliver oxygen more efficiently, and we have long known that minerals like magnesium help muscles contract and relax without cramping. When you combine better circulation with steadier recovery, legs that felt wooden at breakfast can begin to feel more responsive by evening. The danger is to shrug and say this is just aging, because that belief quietly steals independence. The better choice is to test one small change today so you can feel your own evidence. Here is the promise I will make to you. In a few minutes, I am going to show you a simple path built around everyday foods, not exotic powders. And you can start right now with an easy first step. Pour a small glass of unsweetened tart cherry juice and sip it slowly on an empty stomach, or warm a cup of mineral-rich broth and drink it without rushing. Both options are gentle, both are budget-friendly, and both have plausible mechanisms for easing soreness and supporting overnight repair. The advantage of starting with a drink is that liquids empty from the stomach more quickly, so the helpful compounds reach the bloodstream without delay, and you can judge how your legs feel during the day. The drawback is that a drink alone will not carry your strength for the long haul unless you pair it with solid meals that feed the muscle itself. That is where the rest of this plan comes in. We will stack simple foods that you can buy in any American grocery store, and we will time them so your legs get what they need when they need it. If you have ever felt that uneasy wobble when you step off a curb, or if you hold the railing tighter than you used to, stay with me, because there is a calm and doable way forward, and it begins with the next sip and the next bite. When you first notice your legs feeling stiff in the morning, or you find yourself clutching the railing harder than you once did, it may seem like nothing more than a passing sign of age, yet research from respected American medical centers shows that the vast majority of older adults lose a small slice of leg power each year without even realizing it. The number that troubles me most is that nearly every senior gradually gives up about 3% of strength in the lower body every 12 months, a decline that adds up quietly until the simple act of climbing stairs or standing from a chair feels like a challenge. The danger is not just in the weakness itself, but in the way it erodes independence and confidence. Patients often tell me they avoid steps, or they stop walking to the mailbox because they fear the wobble, and this avoidance becomes a prison built one skipped trip at a time. The advantage of recognizing this early is that small interventions can reverse the trend before the body loses more ground. Simple adjustments in diet and movement allow muscles to respond quickly, because at this stage, they are not yet locked into long-term decline. The drawback is that many people dismiss the heaviness in their legs as ordinary aging, and by the time they finally ask for help, their recovery takes longer and requires more effort. I want you to hear me clearly on this point. Weakness is not a fixed sentence. It is a signal, And the sooner you act on it, the more control you keep. The next steps I will share are not exotic treatments or punishing workouts, but everyday foods with documented effects on circulation, energy, and recovery. If you have noticed your own hesitation on the stairs or felt your balance shift when you step off a curb, do not ignore it. This is the exact moment when change can still be easy, affordable, and safe. Stay with me, and I will show you how a few ordinary choices at your table can bring back the power in your stride. One of the most overlooked truths about aging is that the body does not simply wear out like an old machine. It changes in predictable ways that can be slowed or even reversed if you know where to look. As the years pass, circulation becomes sluggish, muscle fibers behave as though their batteries are running low, and inflammation seeps into the tissues like a slow leak that warps the foundation of a house. The strength you lose in your legs is not random, and it is not unavoidable. Studies from Harvard and other leading institutions confirm that when blood flow is restored and muscle cells are properly fueled, older adults can regain performance that many assumed was gone for good. The advantage of understanding this is that you begin to see weakness not as a verdict, but as feedback. If you know that poor circulation is like trying to water a garden with a kinked hose, then you also know that straightening the hose and restoring flow can revive plants that looked withered only hours before. Muscles respond in the same way when given oxygen, nutrients, and relief from inflammation. The drawback of ignoring this science is that decline accelerates silently. What starts as a little stiffness turns into fear of stairs, and fear of stairs becomes dependence on others. That is why I tell every patient who asks me whether change is still possible that the answer is yes, but the window is wider when you act sooner. This is not theory, it is physiology, and the research has been repeated enough times that we can call it fact. Your body is still listening to what you feed it and how you treat it, and that is why the next few foods I am about to share matter more than most people realize. They are not magic, and they are not shortcuts, but they are proven to nudge circulation, to energize tired fibers, and to cool the low-grade inflammation that makes every step feel heavier than it should. Stay with me, because in a moment, you will see how the right bite at the right time can flip the switch from decline to recovery in less than a day. Not long ago, I received a call from a retired firefighter named Robert, a man in his early 70s whose voice shook with more frustration than fear. He told me he could no longer keep pace with his grandson at the park, and that the boy had begun running ahead while he stood bent over, gasping for breath. He admitted that what hurt most was not his legs, but the look on the child's face when he realized his grandfather could not follow. We began with something simple, a daily glass of tart cherry juice, not because it was trendy, but because controlled studies have shown its compounds reduce inflammation and speed muscle recovery. 3 days later, Robert sent me a short video of himself chasing his grandson across the grass. And 1 week later, he reported playing soccer again, laughing that he had not felt that light on his feet in decades. The advantage of a case like Robert's is that it shows the body can still respond quickly, even after years of gradual decline, when given the right tools. The drawback is that not every person will see results in the exact same time frame, and that is why I always remind patients that while some changes can be felt within hours, others unfold more slowly, but remain no less real. The science behind Robert's turnaround is grounded in anthocyanins, plant compounds in tart cherries that improve blood flow and reduce soreness after exertion, benefits confirmed by peer-reviewed research. His story is not a miracle. It is an example of physiology given the chance to work. If you have ever felt left behind by family or avoided activities you once loved because of tired legs, I want you to hold on to Robert's experience. It proves that small, safe adjustments at the table can return pieces of life you thought were gone. And as we move forward, I will show you more of these everyday foods that carry both immediate comfort and lasting power. When I introduce the foods that make the biggest difference for tired legs, I always start with the one that is easiest to overlook. Imagine something as small as a handful of seeds carrying the power to steady your muscles within hours. Pumpkin seeds, simple and inexpensive, are loaded with magnesium, a mineral your body depends on for every contraction and every release of muscle fibers. When levels run low, nerves misfire and cramps take over, and older adults often feel twice as much fatigue during ordinary walking tests compared to those with healthy magnesium stores. The advantage of pumpkin seeds is that they are accessible in every grocery aisle. They can be sprinkled over oatmeal or blended into a smoothie, and just a few spoonfuls begin to refill the reserves that your muscles crave. The drawback is that the mineral is bound by natural compounds called phytates, which is why soaking the seeds overnight is important. Otherwise, much of the benefit slips through the system unused. Still, with a little preparation, this modest food can deliver relief the very next day. The next food on my list may surprise you because most people treat it as a sweet drink rather than a therapeutic tool. Tart cherry juice carries anthocyanins that not only calm inflammation, but also help restore blood flow to tired limbs, and clinical studies show older adults reporting nearly 1/4 less muscle pain and measurable gains in strength after a week of daily use. The advantage is that you do not need an expensive supplement, only a small glass of unsweetened juice. The drawback is that many commercial products are blended with sugar, which undermines the benefit, so you must look carefully at the label. When used correctly, the payoff is real. From seeds to fruit juice, the lesson is that simple foods at your table can work in ways that even pills often fail to match. As we continue, the next choices will show even stronger effects, and you will see how everyday ingredients can be timed to bring back steadiness and stamina faster than you thought possible. One of the most powerful yet underused allies for older legs comes from vegetables that many of us already pass in the produce aisle without a second thought. Beets, dark leafy greens, and even arugula are loaded with natural nitrates that the body converts into nitric oxide, a gas that relaxes blood vessels and opens the highway for oxygen to flood into tired muscles. I once worked with a woman in her late 60s who struggled to walk a single block without stopping, but after adding roasted beets and spinach to her dinners, she called me 2 weeks later to say she had made it through the entire farmer's market with her friends, smiling because she no longer had to ask them to wait. The advantage of nitrate-rich foods is that they act quickly, often within hours, improving stamina in ways that researchers at respected American universities have measured in controlled trials. The drawback is that not everyone tolerates them equally well, and some people experience digestive upset if they increase intake too suddenly. That is why I suggest beginning with modest portions, such as a small roasted beet or a handful of greens, and letting your body adjust. The science is solid and has been repeated in endurance studies with athletes and seniors alike, showing that circulation improves, fatigue is reduced, and recovery speeds up. If you have ever felt your legs turn heavy halfway through the grocery store, or you pause at the base of a staircase wishing for an easier climb, know that these simple foods are among the most reliable tools we have. They will not replace exercise or erase every ache, but they can shift the balance back towards strength and give you more freedom in your day. The lesson is that the produce drawer in your refrigerator can be as potent as any medicine cabinet when used with consistency and care. Another food that deserves a place at the table for stronger legs is the kind that swims rather than grows in the soil. Fatty fish, such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel carry omega-3 fatty acids, natural compounds that cool the fire of inflammation and help muscle cells use energy more efficiently. I once worked with a man in his early 70s who had given up long walks because his knees stiffened after only 10 minutes. He agreed to try adding salmon twice a week, prepared simply with lemon and herbs. Within a month, he called to say the stiffness had eased, and he was walking the length of the boardwalk with his wife again. The advantage of omega-3 rich fish is that their benefits extend beyond muscle strength to joint comfort and even heart health, all backed by extensive studies in American and European journals. The drawback is that quality matters. Farm-raised fish often contain fewer beneficial oils, and sometimes carry contaminants, while fresh wild-caught varieties can be more expensive and harder to find. That is why I encourage patients to balance, choosing canned sardines or frozen wild salmon as affordable options. The science is clear that adequate intake supports both recovery and endurance, giving older adults the ability to move more freely without the drag of chronic soreness. If you have ever sat down halfway through a walk because your legs or knees felt like they had locked, know that the right kind of fish on your plate can help unlock that stiffness and return the joy of movement. It is a reminder that food is not just fuel but also medicine, capable of changing how every step feels. As we arrive at the end of this journey through the foods that support your legs and your life, I want to leave you with one truth that is larger than any single nutrient. Your body is still listening. Every choice you make at the table sends a message to your muscles, your circulation, and your energy. And that message can either accelerate decline or awaken recovery. The advantage of embracing this perspective is that you gain control again, not by chasing miracle cures, but by stacking small decisions that add up over time. A sprinkle of seeds here, a glass of tart juice there, a few servings of greens or fish each week, and the path back to strength begins to take shape. The drawback is that results are not instant, and if you expect transformation overnight, you may feel discouraged. But if you remember that even the slowest progress is still movement forward, then you give yourself permission to succeed. I have watched men and women in their 60s, 70s, and beyond reclaim stamina they thought was gone, and I have witnessed their confidence return as they walked taller, steadier, freer. Science explains why it works, but experience proves that it does. If you take nothing else from our time together, let it be this: weakness is not a sentence, it is a signal, and you have the tools to respond. Share these ideas with someone you care about. Experiment with them at your own table, and pay attention to the changes that follow. You may find, as so many of my patients have, that life opens again in ways you thought were closed. And if this message resonated with you, join me in spreading it, because no one deserves to walk this path alone.